Brad, one of my favorite breakfast places in the world is called the Broken Yoke because it's like 2 blocks from San Diego Comic-Con at the convention center there. And so I have all these positive associations of San Diego Comic-Con with this restaurant, and this restaurant with San Diego Comic-Con. It's right there at the convention center. They make a fantastic breakfast. If you're ever going to Comic-Con, go over to Broken Yoke. Great place. So, but it happened to be, Brad, that my family was down in San Diego this weekend, and we went to the Broken Yoke. You know, we're not at a convention. We just were down in San Diego. Anyway, we walk into the Broken Yoke, Brad, and the entire restaurant, and I can't emphasize this enough, the entire restaurant is 55-year-old dudes who are all bald and all wearing like those little convention, what do you call them? The little placards or lanyards. Thank you, lanyards. They're all wearing convention lanyards, and they all have a similar build.
Oh my God!
My entire family clocks this and goes like, "Wait, what did we just walk into?" And so clearly they're all at a convention, but none of us are feeling particularly brave enough to lean in and ask one of the other tables, like, "Hey, what are you here for?" Because it's all dudes. They're all 55 and they're all bald, right? It's like it's the weirdest like combination of things. So somebody has the bright idea, not me. Somebody has the bright idea to Google, like, hey, what conventions are going on in San Diego this weekend? And Brad, oh my God, it came up as the American Society of Colon and Rectal Surgeons annual meeting at the San Diego Convention Center. And holy hell, did that generate 40 minutes of solid joking from my family, Brad, the Colon and Rectal Surgeons of America.
Please tell me they were sitting 2 by 2 in the booths and sitting very closely together.
That'd be too cheeky. They weren't doing that. But as I was saying to my kids, I was like, hey, you know what, guys? No matter how shitty a day you're having, these guys are having it worse. I mean,
these guys got it worse.
The colon and rectal surgeon, like, imagine the conversations. What is that convention like, Brad?
That's the only convention when you're standing in line, you can be talking to your wife on the phone, say, yeah, I'm going to be in the front of the line pretty soon. I got about 6 assholes in front of me and about a dozen assholes in front of them. And nobody takes offense.
Nobody, they're like, yep, that's a solid description. I mean, you know how they always say, like, when you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail?
Oh, Jesus.
When you're a colon and rectal surgeon, you look around a room, you're like, look at this group of assholes. Boy.
Yeah. Oh, my God, you put your finger in it.
And so on that note, I'm going to say hello, everybody, and welcome to ComicLab, the least crappy show about making comics.
Oh, my goodness. And your show about, I got nothing. And your show about making comics and making a living from comics.
I threw back for a loop on that one, sorry.
And making a living from comics. I'm Brad Guigar, the author of the Webcomics Handbook on Substack and the creator of Evil Inc.
And I'm his pal Dave Kellett, cartoonist of Drive and Sheldon and co-director of the documentary strip.
And this week's hour of cheeky comics advice made possible by your support at patreon.com/comiclab. So Dave, let's talk comics.
Let's talk comics, my friend. We have a full show for everybody, and it's going to be a fun one. And I want to jump right in on a topic that absolutely caught Brad and I by the collar because we want to talk about it. This comes in from Joe Tato Chips over at patreon.com/comiclab. And the question goes like this. Dear Brad and Dave, I have often fantasized about quitting my day job to go full-time cartoonist. But there is one aspect of office life I fear I'll miss: seeing people every day. I've been a homebody before, and after a while, it's hard not to just get weird. How do you manage to stay sane and healthy when you just don't see that many people day to day? How do you socialize? Are full-time cartoonists necessarily loners? Or is there a path to balance even in this solitary profession? Thanks for the great tips on being a dad cartoonist last time. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Joe Tato Tips. I'm glad that worked for you. So that's great. So Bradley, I'm going to ask you, my friend, how do you keep from being lonely? How do you keep from being weird? How do you maintain a certain aspect of socialization and of normal human interactions as a Brad Guigar?
I'm going to have to take a back seat on this conversation because it was driving me crazy to have to deal with people on a regular basis. Like, my mental health went skyrocketing once I got to the point where I could go into a studio, shut the door, and just spend time alone for the entire day. Right. I am the exact opposite of Joe at this point. I I don't even know that I have good advice. I know that this is a common problem. I know that it can drive people, to the point of being very, very upset. I know people who are dealing with this. I am the exact opposite, though. I love going into my studio, and sometimes, like, my wife will say, "How was your day?" And I'll say, "Okay," but my voice will croak because it's the first time I've said anything out loud since I left in the morning. And right. I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm going to let you handle this because I don't know that I have anything intelligent to say on the topic.
Well, no, listen, I am enough of an introverted extrovert, or an ambivert as apparently it's called, where I can go either way. If you put me, like I was talking about the game night that we had a couple weeks back, where, I'm controlling 50 people and steering that energy, and my extroverted side loves it, and I was on fire and I was really funny. Yeah. But you give me the choice, and I will default to my introverted side, which is my wife's like, "You want to go do this?" I'm like, "Nope." "Do you want to go see these people?" "Oh, absolutely not." "Do you want to have these people over for dinner?" "Nope, sure don't." And I will default to that a lot, right? So I am not going to judge you on that because I've got that myself. I see it, I know it, I am it in terms of Brad's desire to be alone. But I will say that I am a funnier, better writer and a healthier human being when I have been around people. And Brad, I think if you are being honest with yourself, you are a better writer and a healthier human being when you have been around other people.
I'm gonna,
you know what? I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask your wife. You are a better human being when you've been around people.
If you mean been around people like on the phone or on FaceTime or something like that.
This is my God, we're getting the Ted Kaczynski side of Brad. Yeah, I want a cabin. I want to be in the woods. Yes, I want to send my little messages.
That's all I want. That guy had it figured out, all except the part where he hurt people. He had it figured out. Like when you can push a button and make it all stop. Yeah. FaceTime. I love FaceTime. I can make it all stop with the push of a button. I don't know that I'm funnier. Let's put it this way. I hope I'm not funnier when I've been around people because I actively try to avoid it.
Well, I will tell you, I'm going to speak to you as a friend. You are funnier. You are funnier when you've been around people. You come back from a Reuben weekend. You're funnier at the end of the weekend than you were at the beginning. You get off an hour of ComicLab. You're funnier at the end of it, and your mind is sharper than you were at the beginning. I am. I will speak to myself. I won't throw you under the bus. Yeah. I talk with my friend Brad Guigar for an hour on this podcast, and I come away funnier. My mind is sharper. The wheels are turning faster. The propensity to find a joke is quicker because I've been put on my toes by someone who I consider very funny to be funnier. You know what I mean? And so it's good for me. So I won't throw Brad under the bus. I'll put myself under the bus. I am weirder, like Joe says, I am weirder when I don't hang out with people. And my wife affirms it for me. She's like, you need to get to some people in your life. You've had too much, you've been too much alone this week in the studio. She can tell conversationally because my jokes are lamer. They fall flatter. My conversation is not so sparkly. And she's right. She's not wrong because I'll throw out a joke and she's like, oh, yikes. That was your material today? Yeah. You need to be around some people. And I'm funnier. I'm quicker. I'm wittier when I've been around friends. And I'm challenged more. That's another way to say it. I'm challenged. I don't fall into complacency. It's like how, and I see this in my 50s, if you don't use muscles, they go slack. Mm-hmm. And the same is true with wit and with the speed of wit and the sparkliness of the diction that you use. And so, Joe, I think Joe is right. I think Brad, I agree with Brad. The idea that I choose to be alone is 100% true, that I largely enjoy the process of being alone. The thing is, I like myself and I like my ideas. And for the most part for me, hell is other people. Yes. And so I do agree with Brad, but I have to admit that like a muscle, socialization, language, humor, wit, it does require the presence of other people.
Well, and that's where I go back to my original statement, which is the kind of socialization that I do like is that kind that's like talking on the phone with a friend or talking on Zoom with a friend. Those kind of things are just great, right? Especially if it's somebody who, again, is mentally challenging somebody that I don't have to carry the conversation.
Oh,
they're
right.
mentally
That's true. I hate that.
challenging.
Yeah.
There's somebody who is, again, kind of like you said, you've got to kind of stretch your creative muscles to keep up with the conversation.
Yes.
Those kind of conversations are a lot of fun. And so if I were to suggest something from somebody who, maybe should not be giving advice on this topic, I will say that it would be useful to find some groups that you can get into, even if it's like jumping on, and this I have done with you and with other people, jump on FaceTime while I'm inking, right?
Yes.
One stage of the project where you can kind of, it's all muscle memory at that point. You can release mentally. You've done all the prep. Now it's just making it look nice. That's a good time to FaceTime with somebody and kind of do a studio FaceTime where everybody also, and this was a hard thing for me to learn doing this, the quiet moments are part of the deal, right? Like the first time I did a Facebook studio session, I felt like I had to talk when this talking stopped to keep up my end of the conversation, to be a good conversationalist and so forth. And meanwhile, I wasn't getting anything done because I was talking to fill in the dead spots. Meanwhile, the dead spots was when everybody was working, right?
Right.
So doing like a Zoom or a FaceTime studio session with other like-minded cartoonists who you enjoy spending time with is a good idea. And also, I'll throw in joining a group like the National Cartoonist Society that has regional meetups. That's one
thing. Drinking draws and things like that.
Yes. That is one thing I have done a couple of times with the Philadelphia group, and I did, and that was an in-person thing. And I did come home. My wife and kids were like, "Who are you?" Because I came home just happy as a clam. Like, he's like, "Oh yeah," because it's all people that you're talking cartooning.
And you don't need to explain the baseline stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And you've all got the same concerns. You've all got the same, vocabulary. So those are two things that I would suggest. And I will say, depending on your region, the NCS has been very, very good about, region-based or local meetups that you might be able to take part in.
Yeah, I will 100% co-sign that. The NCS has, usually if there's not one in your city, if you don't belong to a big city, if you're kind of out in the sticks a little bit, there's usually like a tri-state meetup of like where you might have to drive 3 or 4 hours or take a train 3 or 4 hours, but you do it like once or twice a year. But it's really good for the soul to meet up with other cartoonists that are pros and talk shop. So that's absolutely the case. Drink and draws are great ones. Usually those are local. You can find them on Facebook or on Craigslist or on this or that. Those are, I find, to be less helpful, but other people might be because there's a little bit more like a wider distribution of what they do and how they do it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I will say, in a way that I sometimes in my life, Brad has been the dad to me. And in this moment, I think I will be the dad to Brad, is that I will say that it is not 100% healthy to be so antisocial, that we do have to force ourselves. And I think if Brad's being honest about it, his wife honestly makes him be social, and it's probably better for him. Like, there's a reason why guys that are unmarried die younger than dudes that are married. It's because we make bad choices when it comes to stuff like socialization. You know what I mean? We're like, we'll build our cabin in the woods metaphorically and self-isolate. And so I think that Joe is on the right path. You do need to socialize. You do need to be out there. A D&D group is fun. That's another one to do. Just something that's check in, low stakes, 4 friends. You check in, go on a trip, see a baseball game, and rent a hotel room with 4 friends. That's fun. There's all sorts of ways to do it. But Brad is right. Like, even the low stakes of a shared FaceTime or Zoom or Facebook or Google Meetups, whatever you want to do. Yeah. You will find that over 40 minutes of just talking, there will be moments of silence. Doesn't matter. Everybody's drawn. They're all doing something else. You know what I mean? It's a good thing to do, to just not be alone with your own thoughts all the time. It is good to see other people. And then honestly, Brad, this podcast for you and I represents both something that we do to pay things forward, but also as a fun professional thing, but also just on a friendship level. It's good for us that over the last 7 years, we have checked in with each other on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
I am a better person when I come away from talking to Brad, both as a person and then on professional things I would never think to do. And also at the end of these 7 years, like I love and I care for Brad, and it's good for a human heart to have those bonds and to have that as a driver in your life. So, Joe, here's what will happen. If you do step away from full time, you absolutely will immediately drop down in socialization. And enjoy the first month, because like Brad and I, as both partial introverts, it is kind of lovely to just be alone with your favorite person, which is you, and then and go from there. But I think a month or two into it, do just start putting things on your schedule. Allow yourself to say yes to more things that you might not normally say yes to, like a movie with a friend that's like second or third tier. Sure, say yes to it this time around rather than in the past, just because you need a little human contact. Drink and draws, NCS, Zoom meetups. I think all of those are great options in month 2 or 3 of going full time.
So let me ask you this. Are we making a mistake by all the fact that all of our suggestions are comics and cartooning related? In other words, we could also say to Joe, go volunteer at the hospital.
Yes, I will tell you that, like, I don't particularly love the people. Okay, so the food bank that I volunteer at every once in a while, I don't particularly love them, but I have gotten joke ideas from them because some of them are weirdos. And you're like, what a weird way to look at life, you know? In terms of like, you know, you're trying to pass them lettuce and they're just being odd people. And you're like, that's a weird way to go through life. And so like there is idea making to be had. I know this sounds Machiavellian that everything turns into ideas or comic writing, but Brad's right that like, sometimes different people, but this can also be at your church or your synagogue, or those are also, if those are in your life, those are great volunteering opportunities. Those are great ways to meet people that just walk very different paths than you. Who to them, meeting a cartoonist is like meeting a three-legged calf. You know, they're like, what is this thing? I don't know what a cartoonist is. And for you, when you meet an estate planner or a life insurance salesman, you're like, what is that life like? Like, this weekend I met a guy who his sole job, Brad, is to set up and coordinate the Costco samplers for Costco. It's a third-party company, not Costco, that does it.
You gravitated right to that guy. I know you.
Hey, fuck you, B. It was fascinating. I had like a 20-minute conversation about how the financials work on it, who sets it up, how the logistics work, what Costco requires. It was a great conversation. I like it gained me nothing in my life, but just other than the fascination of how to set up a certain kind of business. But like, those are the moments that are important in life. You're learning. You're constantly curious. You're trying to figure out new ways to go through life and new angles. And so, yes, Brad is right. You don't just want to fall into the trap of being with cartoonists. You want to see more of the world.
I'm seeing this scene play out in my head. I would love it if he would have had like a pocket full of Vienna sausages, you know, just during the conversation.
Bunch of toothpicks. I take out a Vienna sausage. I put it in. I go boink with the toothpick, and then I put it in my mouth, and then I throw away the toothpick. Pull out another Vienna sausage. Boink with the toothpick. Put it in my mouth. Throw away the toothpick.
So let me throw a couple more out there.
Okay.
And this is again secondhand information, but I do know of people who take their drawing equipment to a coffee shop, right? And they work there where they might be among people, or take I every now and again, I have a wild idea to take my sketchbook out to the park, because Philadelphia has a number of wonderful urban parks that's very walkable and so forth. You could put yourself into those types of situations where you might not be talking to somebody directly, but you're among people, and there might be a conversation that happens there. And I do know people who have done something like that years and years ago. Howard Taylor, I think, talked about setting up a situation where he just had like a standing place at the local comic shop.
That's right. I forgot about that. He did have that.
And worked on his comic because he needed, as the story went, needed to be around people. And I'll throw out one more idea that's just coming as we're talking about this. And again, I think I love the idea of a group of cartoonists to drink and draw the NCS, and I love the idea of going someplace that generates comic ideas, but also killing two birds with one stone, knowing that cartooning is a sedentary life and knowing that that comes with a number of health issues. Wouldn't it be a very good idea to get involved with a group that does something that involves exercise, like a bicycling group or a hiking group, a jogging group, a walking group, right?
Yeah.
What if your socialization also addressed some of those sedentary needs of a cartoonist, and you got out there and got a little bit of fresh air and exercised a little bit?
Yeah, I will say that the three dangers of a cartooning life in terms of working full-time by yourself, Brad is absolutely right. It's sedentariness. Yep. It's the diet that you choose at home when you're like, hey, sure, one more Oreo won't hurt.
Yes.
And it's the lack of socialization. And all three of those are dangerous and frankly, heart killers, both physically and emotionally. So yes. Honestly, I'll tell you what I do is that I take my dog for 1 to 2 walks every day, and every person that I cross with a dog, we'll stand and talk for a minute, you know. And I know it's stupid, but you need that. And it's also, I love dogs. I love petting their dog as they're petting my dog. Brad loves dogs. That's great for him. So
they've got the little faces, so you can talk to them.
Oh, you delightful son of a bitch. Oh, I've never met someone with less empathy for a dog. Oh, their little faces and their little biological systems that wag their tails or whatever the hell they do. Oh, and they got 4 legs instead of 2. Isn't that weird? Anyway, I've been Brad Geiger. I do love dogs. God, it gets me every time how little of a shit you care for dogs. If dogs stopped existing tomorrow, you would not care. You'd be like, well, there they go. That was them.
Yeah, you're kind of right about that. It's not that I dislike dogs. It's just that they've never really been a part of my life.
I know. So walking a dog is great in terms of getting out, just seeing people, because and also my wife and I did this too before we had kids, is that we would go work in coffee shops because as writers, you just need to hear the cadence and the pitter patter of language. So even if you're not socializing, you just need to be reminded of how people talk. And so you can be the kind of weirdo that's listening in on conversations about why Barry left Alice, and Alice has had a hell of a time since Barry left, and wow, Barry was a horrible person. And you're fascinatingly drawing and listening into why Barry and Alice fell apart, that kind of thing. Those are great little bits of conversation to overhear at a coffee shop,
Yeah, so I got to tell you, there are a number of ways that you can address this, and there's no one size fits all kind of way, but I do like the idea of either doing like an NCS thing or doing something that gets you out. If you're the way I look at this, if you're going to be out there not working on your comic, at least you can be doing something either good for your community, good for your health, good for something. You know what I mean? So I like the ideas that involve those things. I guess I'll never not be a kill 2 birds with 1 stone thing. But for me, it's
Well, that's the problem, is that we've been doing this for 25 years, and you've got to find resources where you can,
Yeah. And so I think those are a lot of ideas to choose from when it comes to combating loneliness in the studio.
Absolutely, Brad. Absolutely.
Oh, and that music can only mean one thing. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare your chakras and center your vibes, because entering the ComicLab studio on a radiant beam of self-belief and highly flammable essential oils is the one and only Susan MacTaggart.
Oh, Bradley John, look at you. There's the little duck that makes the lady ducks cluck. How are you, Bradley John?
Oh, so good. And so good to see you again, Susan. As you know, Susan is contractually obligated to provide a weekly personal affirmation for one lucky $10 Patreon backer. And this week, that backer is Chris.
Oh, Chris. Oh, my goodness, Chris. Can I call you the Count of Monte Cristo? Oh, that's delightful, Monty. Okay, so, Monty, this one's going out for you. But before I do, Monty, sweetheart, I've got to tell you something. That I've got a new book coming out this week from Penguin Random House, Bradley. Yes. And I just want to tell you the title. It's called First Draft, Best Life. Say it out loud. Say it in all caps. The new book from Susan MacTaggart coming out this week from Penguin Random House.
Wait.
Bradley, you're going to want to look for that. Hit bookstores everywhere.
All right, Susan. So let's give Chris a personal affirmation, shall we?
Okay, Monty, this one's going out for you. But Bradley, I have to say for you, I just noticed this. I didn't know, Bradley, that Wendy's is making T-shirts these days. That looks fantastic on you. Fantastic, Bradley.
Thank you, Ray. It goes with my underwear that says "Home of the Whopper."
God damn. Caught me off guard. So, Monty, sweetheart, I want to give you a personal affirmation this week.
Yes.
This one's going out just for you, Monty. This one, it goes, I've written a special. It says, creativity, Monty, is like coffee. Creativity is like coffee. It's always brewing. It's sometimes bitter, sweetheart. And it flows out of you when you least expect it, Monty. So that's my affirmation for you this week, Monty. Go forth and be wonderful, Monty. And Bradley, you get back out there with that Wendy's T-shirt and you shine your best light, my little sweetheart. And I'll see everyone else next week here on the ComicLab Patreon Affirmation Special Moment.
Wow, there she goes, vanishing into a cloud of sandalwood and raw ambition, Susan MacTaggart with another soul-fortifying affirmation, reminding us all that success is just a vision board away, assuming you don't get bored with your vision.
Hey, gang, if you're listening while you work, take a minute to stand and stretch.
And while you're doing that, we'll tell you why you should join us on Patreon.
Yeah, because when you do, you'll get hours and hours of podcasts that we've recorded just for backers.
And exclusive Patreon posts that go even deeper on ComicLab topics.
And you'll get access to our exclusive Discord server, a thriving community of professional cartoonists.
So you can support the show you love and get tons of actionable resources for your own cartooning.
And ho Nelly, if you want even more comics goodness in your life, check out the new drawing show that we're doing with our pal Kevin McShane over at wrongwayshow.com. That's wrongwayshow.com.
In each episode, we'll show you how to draw your favorite cartoon characters the wrong way.
Now, everybody, let's talk comics. And Bradley, I'm jumping back in because we have a big update middle of the show, Bradley. Our wonderful friends over at dreamhost.com are sponsoring this episode again. And gosh, we could not be more happy about it because Brad and I legitimately are paying users of Dreamhost and have been using it for years, have loved it. I frankly have never had a better host. Honestly, one of the nice things I have loved about the sponsors we've taken on the show is that we always take on sponsors that we ourselves believe in. And this is one that we can absolutely and wholeheartedly endorse.
We're going to direct you over to dreamhost.com/ComicLab. You can take a look at some of the things they've got set up for our audience, including a shared starter plan at $2.59 a month that you can lock in for 3 years. It includes
3 years.
I mean, it's a pretty, and by the way, this is not like a bare bones kind of plan. You get a free domain included, unlimited traffic, WordPress installer, automated WordPress migrations. If you're not happy with your current host, you can migrate over there. Built-in traffic analytics for those of you who want to see how your efforts are doing. And if that's not good enough, you can also try the shared unlimited plan that you can lock in for $3.95 a month for 3 years as well. Gives you all that stuff and more. And like I said, if you're like me and you make mistakes quite a bit when you're working on your website, I can tell you from firsthand experience that DreamHost's support team is top-notch. You never sit there worrying about, am I talking to an actual person? And they are not only willing to help you out, but in my experience, super helpful, super nice, know their stuff. And every now and again, they'll be looking. I can't guarantee you that they do this or will do this for you or for everybody. But every now and again, they were looking under the hood and they said, oh, by the way, we found this other thing and it's going to cause problems with you. We can fix that. Just give us the go ahead. You know?
Yeah, give us the green light. Yeah, and Joe, I've done the same myself. It's like, oh, I didn't realize I had made it or set up that thing wrong. That's great.
Exactly. Thank you. And so that's how you know you're dealing with somebody who really values you as a customer is when they do stuff like that. And so that's why, like Dave said, I don't hesitate for a moment in endorsing DreamHost for web hosting.
And that's why I'm so shocked that there's a 3-year lock-in on that pricing over at dreamhost.com/ComicLab, because the $3.95 plan, especially that's a special for ComicLab, is normally $11 a month. And so you can lock that in for 3 years for under $4. Like that's at gas station Snickers these days is $4.
Yeah,
I mean,
no
so
kidding.
That's a great price. So I would highly recommend locking in either the lower price or the $3.95 a month price for 3 years, because hot diggity, that is good pricing.
Absolutely. If you're going to take Dave and Brad's advice and own and control your own work, that means a website, and that means dreamhost.com.
Absolutely.
So Dave, you have got a topic that you wanted to talk about, and I am very anxious for us to get right into it.
So yeah, Brad, I had mentioned at the top of the show that my family and I were down in San Diego, and we were down for a funeral. And for me, it was 2 days of solid crying. And when I got home from the funeral, I happened to notice that, Andor has been dropping these 3-episode chunks, which are, they work out to be about an hour and a half, 2 hours when you sit down and watch them. And I had been just weeping solidly for 2 days. And so I put on Andor, and I have to tell you, I was reminded of, in a way that I haven't been reminded in many years, of just how critical a function art can serve in a moment when someone just really needs to escape, just to temporarily put their feelings on a shelf, And so because my heart had been so heavy, it was a genuine emotional, spiritual, and physical relief to just not be in my own thoughts for 2 hours. And the art lifted me. It was delightful. It was escapism. It was all the things that you want art to be. But I was reminded of this core function of art as a salvific salve, frankly, that can help a wounded heart, can heal a heart for a moment, because life is hard. And there's a billion moments you could insert that take the place of the weekend that I had. But we all have those moments. And in those moments, art can be salvific and can lift you up. And honest to God, Brad, as an artist, it was interesting to be reminded of that function of art. Yeah. And it got me thinking that maybe we as cartoonists, in a small, passing, fleeting way, can give that gift, or do give that gift to other people. And I wanted to bring that in as a topic for the show, because it was interesting for the first time in a while to be on the other side of that coin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, we always say, nobody is nobody. Everybody is somebody to somebody. And even if you don't think that you have a big audience, and even if you don't think that you're doing these, gravitas comics that win Eisner Awards and all that kind of BS, I guarantee you your comic meant something to somebody. Right. Yeah. Even if you don't think it did, even if it's just kind of floating out there and you're still working things out, you're playing a part in this bigger thing that we're doing for one another by, sharing stories and sharing our viewpoint of things and putting it into our own unique way. That's what art is. And it serves a really important purpose. Remember, it wasn't that long ago when COVID happened that we all kind of had that realization.
Yes.
We were all locked in and very worried about what was happening in the world. And it became an important thing to be able to turn on Netflix, for example, or to open a good book and to just lose yourself for a little while. And it goes back to this whole problem I've been having, and that I've kind of hopefully addressed with social media, where you sit up and you doom scroll all night, right? Yep. And I solved that a few years ago by putting my phone to charge on the other side of the bedroom. Like, I can't even reach it without, going through a whole rigmarole. And then by the side of my bed, I put books and periodicals.
God, good for you. I haven't done that yet. Good for you. That's really smart.
Well, and a former sponsor of the show that I'll put a little shout out to, Hogan's Alley, great magazine to have there by the bedside with a lot of deep reading. The kids got me a book for my birthday, And it's a how-to book for manga artists written by the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Hirohito Akari. Okay. And it's this amazing book. You really actually ought to read it. And it's just this delightful book that talks about his personal views on creating manga. And I don't think so far I'm maybe an eighth of the way into the book. There's nothing that's going to be earth shattering. He says, there are four important things: character, story, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I've heard all these before, but he's got such a charming way to talk about it. And he's got kind of such a unique voice as an artist and as a writer that it's just fun to listen to him talk in this book. It's the perfect bedside reading, So I have a stack of that stuff, all ostensibly art, and all about art. And it has helped me so much to stop doom scrolling before I go to bed. And it goes to your point of how important it is to have the arts there to kind of keep us on a mental even keel.
Yeah. It's so that no one feels that I'm excluding any type of art. It is interesting that the escapism might come from the slapstick comedy of a Will Ferrell movie, but it might also come from a deeply dark historical story or an autobiography or, so I'm not saying there's any one type of escapism or relief that one can find in art. I was just, it was eye-opening to me how important in that moment art became. And I'm really thankful to Tony Gilroy for those episodes, because I know that sounds so silly, but I just needed to not be crying for 2 hours after 2 days of crying. And it was so helpful to me to have that in that moment, that it made me reevaluate those times where people have emailed me and said, I've been in a real dark moment in my life and your comics have helped me, or I was suicidal and your comics will help me. And so I just want to thank my fellow artists for the gifts that they have given me. And it's lovely to be reminded as an artist what one of the key purposes of art is, which is to help your fellow humans, and in whatever small ways we can, how lovely it is that we can do that as cartoonists,
Absolutely. No, it's it also, because the arts tend to get so maligned and sidelined, right? It's the first thing to get cut in every school curriculum. It's good to get a little reminder that this stuff that you're doing is important after all.
Absolutely. And, in terms of escapism, I have to thank you, Brad, as a friend, because you have been on me for a couple of months to try out John Scalzi, which I had not done previously. Yeah. And to be honest, a lot of people over the years have been saying, Dave, you would like John Scalzi, you should read him. But when Brad finally said it, I was like, well, if Brad's saying it, then I got to try it. And holy hell, I tore through his book, Old Man's War, which if you have not read, Brad, God, that's a fun book. It's just fun. It's really just fun ideas. It's a really great. So I want to thank Brad for turning me on to Scalzi, because what a great author he is. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. I really like his storytelling. I think he's rock solid. So Dave, it's time for another question from the Patreon queue over at patreon.com/ComicLab. And this is one that I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on. It comes in from Andrew, who says, hey, revered advice givers and comedic virtuosos.
Revered, maybe we just have some muscle cars in the back. That's fine.
yeah, we're revving. That's wonderful. To pre-position my question, I used your Kickstarter advice to launch our comics last year, and since then have had some friends put forward some ideas and was wondering about your thoughts on them. A couple of novelist friends have successfully Kickstartered their novels by putting forward a smaller goal amount. By doing this, they have reached their goal in the first couple of days and got their books onto the Project We Love page, furthering their success with the campaign. I'm hesitant to consider this, but is it worth considering? Secondly, if you have time, also along similar lines, on day one early release, do you do to supporters on Patreon? I was wondering if there was any way to apply this elsewhere for those without a Patreon of their own. So he's asking us to talk about that whole thing where we release the Kickstarter early to our Patreon
the secret
backers.
one-day release kind of thing for Patreon backers. Yes. So let's jump in on Andrew's first question first, which is to intentionally set a lower goal with the hope of getting both a thing locked in quickly with having met the goal in day 2, 3, 4, 5, and also getting on a project we love page. So let's distinguish a couple of different things. When you say set the bar low or set the goal low, Andrew, I want to distinguish with a couple different ideas. So let's say what I want is a book that makes $25,000, right? That's what I want. What I need is a book that makes $15,000 to cover all the expenses and ideally a little bit of walking around change, right? That's what I need. But then you could conceivably have a third number, which is what I'm intentionally setting to be lower. So let's say I set the number at 10,000, right? So if I want, I forget the first number that I said. Did I say 25? 25. If I want 25, but I need 15, and I could reach a goal, I could set a low goal at 10. I would be okay with you intentionally setting the bar to what you need down to 15,000 from what you want, which is 25,000. I can see that. That one I can endorse. But I get nervous with you setting the goal lower than what you need to what could potentially get you over the finish line earlier quickly, which is like a 10,000. Or it doesn't matter the number, but you get what I'm going with. Because you're a little bit setting up a potential disaster, which is a book that clears its Kickstarter goal. You now are morally and financially responsible for producing that book or that thing. Right. But you did not get enough financials behind it where you're going to have enough money to make it. So you've got to come out of pocket, or you've got to take a loss or take a loan or something. So on that specific angle, I get really nervous for you with this idea. But if you're setting it if you're lowering your number from what you want to what you need, I can see that. I have done that myself. You know what I mean? Like what I really want is a book that's going to make 25, but I just need 15. So I'm going to set the number at 15, and hooray, on day 5, we made the 15. So now onward and upward, and we can do all the stretch goals and all that sort of fun stuff. What is your first blush take on this question, Brad?
I'm going to be a little bit more direct than you were on that, because I think this is this is not an idea I would endorse. Okay. In fact, I would say that it's dangerous to do this. There is a considerable amount of risk involved in doing this that you touched on. And for that reason, I really would not endorse doing this. And
well, can I ask you to clarify what you think he's asking to be done? Because I think that will be helpful. What do you think he's asking to be done?
That's what I'm going to say is that, but the first thing is, don't do it. Okay. It's dangerous. Okay. You need to understand the risk. Now, instead of talking about wants and needs and all that kind of stuff, I am going to push all that to the side. That's fine, because there's only one number that matters, and that's your cost. How much does it cost to do this? And to do that, you got to do your Kickstarter math. We've talked about that in the past. That involves adding up all of your costs for producing this item at the quantities that you need, right? And that includes shipping, from the printer to your doorstep, including shipping from you to your backers. That means the 10% that Kickstarter is going to take. That means accounting for any taxes at the federal, state, and local level. You need to do the Kickstarter math to determine your cost. Once you do that, you add a little bit to it for a buffer, like $1,000 or so. Add that to a buffer to account for anything you might have screwed up on. And that is your Kickstarter goal. To make your Kickstarter goal lower than the cost is dangerous.
Yes, that's such a simpler and better way to say it. I want to co-sign Brad there. Yeah. Yes. That is a simpler, but I got too confuzzled with my wants and my needs. Here's the thing. Brad is right. You have to have your bare bones list price has to be the cost plus plus whatever lost books, shipping that might go awry, this or that. All the cost plus stuff that you would need in there has to be in your bare bones goal. Brad has said it better than I have. Yes.
And to set that so the whole thing is, The other thing I don't like, that I don't endorse about this, is that it's a push button shortcut solution, right? Well, if I do this push button shortcut thing that doesn't require me to be a good artist or a good writer, I just put the number in lower and hit go. That push button shortcut thing supposedly is going to land me on this magical list. Dave, you've landed on that list way more than I have. My projects tend not to show up on that list for some questionable reason. Who knows why? But you've landed on that list. What would you estimate that being on that list did for you in terms of the overall success of your Kickstarter?
Well, so I was logging into Kickstarter while you were asking that question, but here's the good news. I can speak to it extemporaneously, but while I'm looking for this number, which is that it is a shockingly lower number than you would want it to be, right? When you get on a project we love with Kickstarter. So I would say, could it be just a few $100s? Yeah, it could be. And that's it from a multi $10,000 Kickstarter, way less than you want. I mean, like I'm trying to think of and find the number for the Drive Kickstarter, which was like, I don't know, $120,000. And the project we love factor of that final number was tiny. It was nothing. You know what I mean? So was it good for the overall visibility of the project? Yes. Was I happy that it became project we love? Yes. Did it allow me on social media? One more thing I could talk about? Yes. That has a knock-on effect as well. But in terms of like how much it brought in, I don't know, Brad, that it was all that exciting. You know, any individual thing on Kickstarter, it's not the thing that's going to knock you over. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, if you lower your goal by $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 in order to get project we love, you might be shocked by you gave up thousands to gain a couple hundred at best. You know, it's not necessarily worth it.
Yeah, I agree 110%. And it's just bad business. It's just bad business. Here's the deal: you need a certain amount of money to make this project happen. And no amount of dancing around and shortcut tricks and all this other stuff is going to change that. You need that amount of money. And here's something that we all need a little reminder of from time to time. There are worse things than not getting a Kickstarter goal. Right. Nobody wants to be in the position of not meeting their Kickstarter goal, but there are worse things than that. That's free market research.
Yeah,
that
and losing money is a worse thing. Yes.
Yes. The worst thing than not getting your goal would be getting your goal and not having enough money to do the project and having to go out of pocket. And that's the real danger. This is, in my opinion, this is bad business. It's not a great, and it's an indication that you don't have faith in the work that you've done. If you've done good work, you put that, then you do the solid business on it, do the solid math, come up with the number that you need to make this project go, and then you send it out there. And if you get disappointed, nobody likes disappointment, but that's a learning moment. That means that you need to go in and change something, either about what you're doing or how you set that up, how you. The first thing, if I was doing a consultation on that failed Kickstarter, take a look at your Kickstarter ladder and see whether you set up that ladder well. Take a look at your outreach and all those other things. It's a learning moment. There are worse things than failing a Kickstarter. And one of them is setting your goal too low and meeting your Kickstarter. Right.
So, and okay, I now have the numbers in front of me. I just thought it would be worthwhile to share this with you on this one. So for a project that ended up making just under $140,000 for this Drive 4 Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Previous backers through Kickstarter represented $29,000 of that thing, right? So people that I had already earned by way of saying it from past Kickstarters, right?
Right.
Recommended, which is a form of project we love. It's under that umbrella, $1,000. So the percentage of that. So had I set my goal $5,000 or $10,000 lower, Brad, I would have been robbing from Peter to pay Paul there in a way that's detrimental to me. So I just want to bring up those numbers only because it is demonstrative of how it is not some life-saving big swing that you get on a project we love or a recommended from Kickstarter. It helps. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love that $1,000. That was great. But did it save the day? No. Was it worth me undershooting and potentially having disastrous a project that goes, but I then am out of pocket? No, it's not worth that at all. So Brad is 100% right. So now to the second question, Brad, that was asked. Should we turn to that one? That part of the question there, which is, when you do release to early Patreon folks, can you find a way to apply this elsewhere? Well, sure. You could do a secret launch to your MailChimp folks, to your Substack folks, to whoever you wanted to do. Kickstarter allows basically a link that doesn't it's not going to go out to the people you want it to not go out to unless you share it. So here's the thing. People that have backed you in the past and people who have signed up for notifications from Kickstarter, they're going to get it no matter what you do on that secret day one launch. You kind of can't stop that. You kind of have to roll with the punches. What I tend to do, because most people are self-policing and honest about it, I will make the goal, or not the goal, I'm sorry, I will make the reward or the special day one thing have the name on that's listed as Patreon exclusive or for Patreon pals only or something like that. Because usually people are self-policing and won't back a thing to which they don't belong to, you know? But just be aware that past Kickstarter backers and people that signed up for email notifications from Kickstarter about you or about Brad Geiger, they're going to get it when you launch the project, even if it's in secret.
Absolutely. Don't make this more confusing or don't make it more complicated than it is. Here's what Dave and I recommend when you're setting up a Kickstarter. You set up 1 or 2 reward tiers that are open for 24 hours that you announce, and you can set limits on them as well, right? You can set a number limit, but you say as part of that reward, this will only be open for 24 hours. And then after 24 hours, you go in and you deactivate those rewards. They'll still be in the list so people can see that they were there. You can't just make them disappear, but that's also part of the urgency that you're building. And Kickstarter is all about urgency. Okay. So you launch your Kickstarter. You've got 1 or 2 tiers that are special reward tiers, only open for 24 hours, and they offer some kind of benefit. The usual one is free shipping, but it may change with you. And you hit the button. Now, when you hit that button, launching your Kickstarter, it's going to, like Dave points out, it's going to go out to all your former Kickstarter backers. That's fine. You are going to put it out to your Patreon backers. That's great. You can, if you don't have a Patreon, like our question asker is indicating, you can send it out to whomever. It don't make it more complicated than
just
it is.
Family, that's fine. Just your Substack, that's fine.
Yes, exactly. You send it out to whomever. The whole thing is you're not making a big public announcement until 24 hours has elapsed. You shut down those 2 reward tiers. And now you make the big announcement. That has a couple of things. Number one, that makes, here's the whole point. It makes a certain number of people in your audience feel special because they backed you in different ways, either through Kickstarter or a Patreon or a Substack or your MailChimp or whatever it is.
College buddies, doesn't matter.
Yes, it makes a certain number of people feel special. Number 2, those people who come in on day 2 see that there was something for that only went out to Patreon backers, and they think, maybe it's worth my time to back this person on Patreon. Maybe it's worth my time to be part of that community. I missed out this time. I won't miss out next time. And number 3, it all contributes to the sense of urgency. Dave and I have said on the show before, you make all your money in the first couple of days and on your last couple of days. That's because of the concept of urgency. So anything you can do to build urgency and exploit that, that's going to make your Kickstarter go to its highest possible level.
And all of that is great advice. I have completely co-signed that. I'm just going to do 2 logistical things that I can suggest to you to think about if you want to do this. Number 1, Brad's right. You can wait and at the 24-hour mark, turn off that tier. But what's great is about 2 or 3 iterations of Kickstarter ago, they introduced a time limiter that you can set days, weeks ahead of the Kickstarter even launching, that you can say 24 hours after this thing launches or 8 hours, whenever you want, this tier turns off and goes away, right? So you don't even have to think about it or set an alarm on your phone. It's done for you as you're setting up the Kickstarter. That's number one. Number two is, in addition to like free shipping or this or that, or like a free printed matter, bookmarks, little foldable posters, things that are pennies on the dollars for you to produce and easy to pack. You can have none of that listed on the Kickstarter itself. What you can do is on your Patreon or on your Substack or on your MailChimp or your College Buddies list or whatever you want to do, you can say there at that location, not at Kickstarter, but that location, everybody that jumps in the first 24 hours from this time to this time, Pacific time, Eastern time, any time zone you want to set, if you do in the first 24 hours, you'll get free shipping. It won't show up on Kickstarter, but just trust me, you're going to get free shipping. Or you can say, jump into the first 24 hours, you get free bookmarks, or you get a free foldable poster, or something like that. And you say it at the location that you're driving people from in those 24 hours. You don't say it on Kickstarter. That way, no confusion at all for new people jumping in on hour 48 of the Kickstarter of like, wait, how do I get these free posters? Or how do I get this free shipping? They never saw it, and they're none the wiser, and there you go. So I have done that strategy too. I've used both the time-limited turn-off feature for certain rewards, like Brad had suggested. That's great. And I've also done the never mention it on Kickstarter itself, only mention it at the other location,
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, if somebody gets a reward that they weren't supposed to get, right? Let's say somebody stumbled into your Kickstarter and they weren't mentioning
this. Yes.
And they weren't Patreon backers. You know what you do about that? Nothing. Big deal. Who cares? They got a little something. What do you care? It's no skin off your nose. They're a backer now. They're just take the win, Take
the win, yeah. You have also ingratiated yourself to somebody that's now a new and passionate follower of yours,
That's right.
Oh no, are they a new person from Kickstarter that somehow got the free bookmarks? Oh no, they love you even more now. Great. That's what you want.
Take the win. Take the win. Yeah, at some point you just got to know when to say enough's enough. For example, when you've been doing a podcast for a full hour, you say that you've been listening to ComicLab, the show about making comics and making a living from comics.
Your hosts have been my friend Brad Geiger, the editor of webcomics.com. And by the way, I haven't mentioned it in a long time. Webcomics.com, an incredible resource for cartoonists of all ages, all stripes, all levels of professionalism. I cannot say enough good things about the work Brad is doing there. And he's the creator of Evil Inc. also at evilcomic.com. And he's the handsome co-host of the new drawing show at wrongwayshow.com.
Well, thank you. And my good friend Dave Kellett,
was that for the handsome, that thank you? Or was that for the webcomics.com, that thank you?
That was for both. That was an all-inclusive thank you.
Oh, okay. Because I realized that thank you was so sincere. I wasn't sure if you just needed the win on the handsome or if you were like...
I'll take them both. And my close personal friend Dave Kellett, the co-director of the comics documentary Stripped and the cartoonist of Sheldon at sheldoncomics.com and Drive at drivecomic.com, and another handsome co-host of the drawing show at wrongwayshow.com.
Thank you. I needed that. At ComicLab, the theme song is used with... My goodness, David Kellett, learn how to talk. The ComicLab theme song is used with permission from Andy Creighton at theworldrecord.net, and this episode was edited by Matt Woodard of Woodsong Productions over at www.woodsong.media.
If you love ComicLab, and we know that you do, you can rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, and you may hear your review featured on a future episode. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Spotify, where we are burning up the podcast charts. Thank you so much, by the way, for those of you who are pushing us on Spotify. We're getting a lot of new listeners over there, and we really appreciate your helping us doing that.
And I will give one more thank you and shout out to our friends and sponsors this week over at DreamHost. DreamHost.com/ComicLab. Check out the 2 special price tiers that they've got for our wonderful pals and backers over there. And I will say ComicLab is made possible by your support at patreon.com/ComicLab. So we'll go ahead and say that twice. Patreon.com/a room of colon and rectal surgeons.
So if somebody starts choking over there at the Broken Yoke.
Where is this joke going? Oh God, I have have no idea the anticipation and the excitement for where this joke is going. I have no idea. Oh my God, when you know how a joke could fall and you're like, oh yeah, I see where this is going. I have no idea where you're going to take this. I'm so excited in this moment.
What's that Heimlich maneuver look like?
He landed the plane. Everybody.